Very interesting. Where does it say that abortion is wrong? Well, the most important place it says abortion is wrong is in, let's just say, the Ten Commandments. The commandment, thou shalt not murder. Well, you say, well, that's interesting because I don't see an unborn child there. Well, then who do you see there? That's the question. Then who do you see there? When you say, thou shalt not kill, who do you believe is included in the command of those who must not be killed? And the answer is that the Bible makes clear that every single human being is made in God's image. And thus, to kill any human being is to commit homicide, which is a violation of God's divine command. You do not kill his image bearer. That's found in Genesis 9 as clearly as it is in Exodus 20. So then the question is, well, is an unborn child really a human person? Well, here we are at the very crux of the matter. The answer is that every single intelligent, morally sensitive person acknowledges at least this: at some point that unborn child becomes a human person, and thus the killing of that person would be murder. And you would think that at the very least everyone would agree that's at the point of birth, but you have someone like Peter Singer at Princeton University who says infanticide, the killing of infants outside the womb, couldn't be, or children even up to the age of 2, could be morally justified as something other than homicide. Shockingly enough, he makes that argument in public. Well, you would say, well, just about everyone, though, would acknowledge that a baby, just before the baby is born, will be recognized as a person. And so even in the United States, you have a pregnant woman who's murdered, a famous case in California a few years ago. A pregnant woman is murdered, and her murderer is found guilty not of 1 murder, but of 2. And so even the secular courts recognize that at some point, that unborn child becomes a human person, the killing of whom is rightly homicide. And that's one of the reasons why, even in many countries that are very pro-abortion, for instance, most European countries, there is no legal abortion after a child reaches a certain point of gestation. And in some countries, for instance, the 30 or 33 weeks. Many of those countries are trying to press it back to 24 or 20 weeks. Why? Because those babies are thriving, born earlier than they were previously. So you'll notice how this point that just about everybody recognizes is moving somewhere in there. This is where Christians understand that this is a calculation that just justifies murder. And so we understand thou shalt not murder has to be pressed back to when God says, let there be life. And that's when we begin, when that egg is fertilized by the sperm, and where a process of cellular division starts. We believe that there is a person. It doesn't look like a person yet, but that baby doesn't look like a person for some time. That doesn't mean that baby is not a person. Every single one of us was a fertilized egg, and then was an embryo, and or at some stage a zygote. You can come up with any word you want. You can simply dismiss that unborn child as a fetus, but the reality is that everybody, even arbitrarily, even without having any major moral reason, understands that at some point the killing of that unborn child is homicide. It's the killing of a person. And Christians just understand, based upon the logic of the Scripture, and there are all kinds of verses we could pull in here, but I would say you really don't have to know anything more than the Ten Commandments to understand why we should be against abortion. Because we're killing a human person. That is homicide. And the Scripture clearly says, thou shalt not kill. And it means there very clearly, thou shalt not murder, the intentional taking of a human life.